It's manufactured by GlaxoSmithKline, and more than 800,000 children have participated in a pilot project in Ghana, Kenya and Malawi over the past 2 years. The news was announced in Geneva by Dr. Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus, head of the WHO.
I longed for the day that we would have an effective vaccine against this ancient and terrible disease. Today is that day, an historic day. Today, WHO is recommending the broad use of the world's first malaria vaccine. This long-awaited malaria vaccine is a breakthrough for science, child health, and malaria control.
As the vaccine is rolled out, particularly in sub-Saharan Africa, health analysts say it could save tens of thousands of lives a year. But it could take a year before distribution is widespread. Gavi, the Global Vaccine Alliance that is already rolling out COVID-19 vaccines, must now make time to assess the impact of the malaria jab. The main news again, England's red list for international travel requiring hotel quarantine on arrival has been cut to just 7 countries. It's been revealed that the US military has been secretly training armed forces in Taiwan for at least the last year. And Tanzanian novelist Abdul Razak Gurna has been awarded the 2021 Nobel Prize for Literature, the first African ever to win the prize. There's more from us on Twitter at Feature Story. And that is the latest Feature Story news. Simon Marks reporting.
This is the Onion Week in Review. Sources are confirming your dog died earlier today, and we're all really sorry you had to find out about it like this, buddy. Though it's a lousy thing to have to learn from an online web video, and even shittier to hear from a cold, hardened newsman's voice that you can't put a face to. Your pet passed away in his sleep while you went out today, and we understand how shocked you must be right now. Sources added that there are many local shelters with animals in need of a good home, though we understand that no dog can ever truly replace the one you just lost. I lost a dog once, but my mom was the one who told me about it, and she was quite the comfort. In this week's op-ed pages, Pantene CEO Marcus Russo laments feeling like the only one who gives a shit about rich, lustrous hair. In other news, a study finds that newborn infants can tell if their parents are losers. A man who just assembled a desk is unsure how he has every screw left over. And Jeff Beck is lured into a dark alley with the old guitar pick on a string trick. For more, visit theonion.com/newsbeat.
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live.
It is Free Talk Live, and of course, you can join us here. The number for you to get your thoughts on the radio is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. In the studio tonight, you've got Ian,
Matt, and Joa.
And we're going to start things out tonight with a story that we didn't cover. I guess it was yesterday then that it was going on. Just because school shootings, I mean, are they even really that newsworthy anymore? They seem so common. But there was another one, apparently, in Texas this time. And we just happened to notice, Matt, you noticed prior to the show starting, that this shooter, the alleged shooter, is now he's gotten out on bond.
Yeah,
right?
He walked out. Well, I think he was in jail for less than a day. He's out on $75,000 bond.
Because that makes sense.
The guy just shot 3 people.
Was that how many?
Yeah, it was. He has aggravated assault charges against him 3 times. So that means he shot 1 kid. He shot a 25-year-old man, maybe an assistant or a teacher or something, and he grazed another girl apparently. So there's 3 counts. Aggravated assault.
So he didn't kill anybody.
He didn't kill anybody. Nobody died, but he square on shot at least 2 people. And grazed a girl, whether that was an incidental kind of discharge, miss and hit anyway.
But he intent to kill.
Yeah, he intended to shoot a couple people apparently and hit the girl as a bystander. I think.
I mean, I just saw a picture of the guy. He looks pretty young. Was
he's 18.
He was a student?
No, I don't know if he's a student, but he's 18. Mm-hmm. And they're looking for him. And they found a gun in the streets of something town prairie something. And so they said they found the gun in the streets. So that's been turned over to the ATF, and the ATF is testing it for ballistics stuff.
It's describing him here. This is a story from the Star Telegram, which is one of the newspapers in Texas. He is described as a student.
He is a student. Yeah, okay. Well, he's 18 years old.
Yep, he's 18. Timothy Simpkins is his name. He's accused of injuring 4 people at Mansfield Timberview High School in Arlington, Texas. He was released on bail. His attorney and family have made statements in his defense. He has been charged with. Now they want me to pay $2 to read the rest of the story. It just popped up, just came right in. So $75,000 for bond in this particular case. I'm sitting out here on $200,000 bond.
Wait, how many people did you shoot?
None whatsoever.
Zero you didn't hurt anybody?
Yeah, no one has accused me of causing any kind of harm to another human being.
Okay, I'm trying to fathom this for a second here on how this all works.
Yeah. Well,
wait, have any victims come forward? Wait, we can't talk about. We can't talk about this.
No victims. No.
One could possibly be dangerous to a power structure that's presiding, and another is just a danger to a bunch of peasants who nobody cares about.
Yeah,
I see.
So
yeah. They basically, you're referring to the bankers, basically.
Yeah, the banksters.
The central bank and their buddies in the big banks. The fiat money system is threatened by cryptocurrency, of course, and the Crypto Six, of which I am one of the six, are accused of helping to foster cryptocurrency, basically. I mean, that's not the actual name of the charges that they've hit us with, but
that's what they mean.
That's what they've come after us for.
That's way worse than shooting 4 people. I guess it was 4 people. Yeah. Way worse than shooting 4 people.
Yeah. And it took him 69 days to bail me out.
That's right. You're in over 2 months.
This guy's overnight out.
He's out the next morning.
Let's not investigate this at all.
It's crazy.
Oh my god!
But that's how it is.
But that's how you know you're over the target too. Like if you really want to affect change, if you really want freedom in your lifetime, if you want your kids to have freedom, your grandkids to have freedom, and their grandkids to have freedom, you're gonna get involved with cryptocurrency as soon as possible.
Oh, yeah.
Be wary of any government issued Fed coin,
anything, government issued anything.
Stay away from that stuff. But if you really want privacy in your transactions, you're gonna get on board with an encrypted currency of some kind. And
and if you haven't noticed, Bitcoin's back up 55.
I heard
55,000 guys.
Yeah, it's been a good week.
Yeah, it's been a good week. Yeah.
Let's talk a little more about the case. Here's a different story from thehill.com. He was a student in, as we said, Timberview High School in Arlington, Texas. He was inside a classroom on the second floor of the building when a fight started between him and a 15-year-old student. According to the arrest warrant, videos of the fight have circulated on social media, on one of which shows Simpkins being hit by another student. Once teachers were able to break up the fight, Simpkins walked to an orange backpack, grabbed a gun, and began shooting at the student with whom he had the fight. One student told police that Simpkins shot 7 to 8 times, and others said they heard 3 to 6 shots. The student who fought Simpkins was in critical condition as of Thursday. A teenage girl was grazed by a bullet but was treated and released from the hospital. A 25-year-old teacher who broke up the fight was also shot but is in good condition, and another teacher was injured, but she just took a fall and did not get shot in that case.
That was strategic so she can get something later.
Yeah, and I saw something in another story about how I guess he's been picked on. The Atlanta Journal-Constitution says the 18-year-old was being bullied, and not that justifies
shooting people,
shooting somebody over that. But
although to all the bullies out there, stop doing that. You never know how it's going to backfire on you. Some people react.
No pun intended. Backfire.
Backfire or front fire.
So there's that story. I mean, what else do you want to say about it?
Well, I'm not a conspiracy theorist or anything like that. I just want to point out that this is awfully convenient to the new laws that passed, and that they're allowed to have constitutional carry there, and they seem to want to make everything an example. And so these, I don't
think that applies to a school campus, though, right? Constitutional carry usually doesn't apply to campuses.
Maybe not. I'm not really 100% sure.
Yeah, I'm not an
I know some
attorney
campuses
either.
allow it. Because we saw, what's that girl's name? That blonde girl was on that InfoWars show. But she goes out all the time. The one that pooped in her pants. You guys know what I'm talking about.
Oh, yeah. Caitlin Bennett.
That's not true.
Well, I know it's not true, but that's what people say.
Yeah.
Caitlin Bennett
must be true.
Liberty Hangout, right?
Yeah. Well,
which has nothing to do with Liberty.
At all.
But she graduated, I think, in Texas.
Yeah, but I'm not defending the girl. She's absolutely terrible. There's
I mean, there's some of the things that we all kind of like what she says, but then she gives it to the very government Republican angle. But but I'm just trying to say, she was like taking her photos at one of her, I think, a Texas university that she was at, but with her gun while she was like, graduating.
That's what made her name, basically.
Yeah. And so like, I think they do allow it on many campuses, but
I don't think high school. I don't think.
Oh, this is high school. But
yeah, he was 18
do
years
our rights
old.
really end at the border of the high school property?
Well, I don't think they should, but I'm just saying that my understanding of generally like gun. I mean, Matt, you're more of a gun guy probably than both of us. What have you heard about this?
About what?
Open carrying on campus.
Well, open carry on campus. The thing is,
or conceal.
Either way. Most campuses of any kind have experienced some kind of federal funding. So when you have a federal building, they're probably not going to allow carrying into the federal building. It's my experience.
High schools are federal?
Well, I don't know how much government money they're taking.
I guess that's what makes it federal at that point. Sure.
They're all taking federal money.
They're all
sure.
So that's what prevents rights from happening there? Because they're federal?
Yeah, you're not allowed to take, as far as I know, you're not allowed to take a firearm into a federal building.
Well, yeah, it has to be posted.
Oh.
At least that's what I know of.
Because when it comes to carrying guns, I really don't like to screw around. And I'd rather ask a question and walk in and just have, hey, guys, open my vest, and there's my gun and my, shoulder holster. Like, oh, my God, hey. All I wanted to do was say, hey, is it okay if I bring my gun in? And just have them shoot me.
Sure. Well, I mean, the thing with like these auditors that are out there, so you got like First Amendment audits and you have Second Amendment audits. Usually you're filming First Amendment with the Second. And they'll walk into certain places, even federal places that you might think has restriction on firearms, but they'll walk in there anyways and test it because there's no signage posted, there's no notifications. So then they'll challenge it, and most of the time they win with these.
Yeah, when you're a gun owner, there's just a bunch of stuff that you're just supposed to know.
Yeah.
When they raided us and they found my what they call it, was it arsenal? Well, one of them definitely called it. They found my arsenal. It was the ATF guy went up one side of me and down the other and asked me a million. It's like, man, I do know the answers to most of these questions he's asking me. The best thing is to shut up.
Yeah.
But the fact that he expects the ATF expects the average gun owner to know all of this stuff just so they don't go to prison, that is just almost impossible.
I was having a conversation the other day. It's like, you got to know all the laws if you're going to be a good citizen. Well, good luck spending a lifetime memorizing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think as far as carrying on campus, especially high school campus, you may want to do your own research about this because it's probably going to be very different in somewhere like California as opposed to in New Hampshire.
Yes,
and then
states matter.
There is a federal Gun-Free School Zones Act which could overrule all of those things. So anyway, just don't take legal advice from us.
Sounds unconstitutional
to
to
your
me.
own research. More coming up.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at Bitcoin.com. That's Bitcoin.com.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. freeprivatecities.com.
Breaking weather news. Belize is sunny and around 82 degrees every day this week.
What's the forecast for your life? If current politics and economic prospects are cramping your freedom, escape to the tropics. ECI Development has affordable second homes for you to own or rent in Belize and other tropical countries. Places with stable governments and growing economies. Secure your freedom now. To find out more, send an email to ftl@ecidevelopment.com.
When a lunar observatory detects a radio broadcast originating from Proxima Centauri, the nations of Earth discover their first contact with an alien race may also be their last. With the Proximans facing an extinction-level disaster, Earth must choose between sending a ship on a multi-year journey or allowing nature to take its course. Saving Proxima, a hard science fiction thriller by Travis S. Taylor and Les Johnson from BaneBooks.com.
So the protection of life, liberty, and property is what the Free State Project is all about. But it's an effort to move 20,000 people who understand.
It's about demonstrating to the entire country
that, yeah, we can have a free market, a truly free market.
Making it just a freer, great place to live.
It's the world's largest voluntarist libertarian community, and it's only getting bigger.
That's amazing, to be able to move to a place where other people passionately believe in being free and independent.
What the Free State Project is managing to do, though, is to put their money where their mouth is. It's physically getting up across the country and saying, let's go someplace and let's demonstrate the power of these ideas. There's a lot of kind of philosophy that surrounds liberty. There's a lot of thinking about it and talking about it. But here in New Hampshire, people are doing it.
101 Reasons Liberty Lives in New Hampshire, a documentary by Free State Project Early Movers. Watch it free at 101reasonsfilm.com. 101reasonsfilm.com. What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191.
There are basically two types of advertising, direct response and branding. Radio's great for direct response with its low cost to listener ratio, but audio can't be beat for branding, which is a longer-term endeavor. You want to be the first thing that someone thinks of when they think about your product or service. If you have a local business that you want kept top of mind in your community, call the station. If you need national reach, Free Talk Live's got around 200 radio stations, millions of monthly listening sessions, can suit all budgets, and if we don't think we're right for you, we'll tell you. Email me, mark@freetalklive.com.
You can stick it to the man and big tech. Join our FTL social mastodon at social.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live. Open phones. If you want to join us here, you can bring up anything you want. Number is 603-283-6160. Coming up, a shocking, but I guess we shouldn't say surprising, story about somebody being basically denied a kidney transplant because they don't have a vaccine. They didn't get the vaccine for COVID. We can tell you more about that coming up here, plus some more disturbing news out of a Louisiana health system. Joe is going to tell us that story on the way. The number is 603-283-6160. And I do want to make sure you know about Bitcoin.com. That is where you can go to learn the basics about Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash, like cryptocurrency. Get the basics by clicking on Get Started at the top of the page there at Bitcoin.com. That'll take you to some introductory videos and some more in-depth videos as well. If you want to keep digging, you can, of course, spend as much time on this topic as you like. But if you want to save some time, 3 minutes is all the first introductory video is. It's going to only be 3 minutes of your time, and then you'll have the basics down. And that's so important because this technology is not going to go away. It's going to likely become even more part of our lives. And so it would behoove you to take just a little bit of your time to learn the basics.
It's still early.
It is still early. I think so. Yeah, we're only in just over the first decade. I think 13 years will be this January for Bitcoin. So head on over to Bitcoin.com. We go to your phone calls and thoughts. Jennifer is on the line calling from New York. You're on Free Talk Live. Do we have Jennifer?
Yes.
And there you are. Go ahead.
Hi. I watched a video that was posted in the FSP Facebook group the other day, and it was of the New Hampshire Executive Council meeting, where the activist Footloose was there and a bunch of other people who were against taking the federal $27 million to create the vaccine registry.
That's right, yep.
And I was wondering at first what happened after that meeting, but it seems to me that they were able to shut it down because they weren't allowing public access. The room wasn't large enough. And then I looked into it a little more on an Absolute Defiance channel, and I saw that the media was spinning it like, oh, these activists are threatening the politicians. They don't feel safe. That's how the mainstream was portraying it.
Yeah.
But I did have a few questions about that because myself and some other people I know who are liberty people are looking at coming to New Hampshire.
Really?
And so Yeah, so I had thought that Sununu, which I understand the crowd there wasn't happy with him, he wouldn't come out, whatever. I don't know all the details, but I thought that Sununu had banned vaccine passports, registries, any kind of requiring of the vaccine to live your life, basically.
So let me clarify, from my understanding, Sununu is a little tyrant. And last year he wrote, I don't know, 7 or 8 dozen different gubernatorial executive orders that did all kinds of things, from stay at home to business restrictions to mask mandates. And now, while some would argue that there were loopholes in some of these, you could drive a Mack truck through. The fact is, most people don't read the executive orders, so most people just did what they believed they were being told. And so then Sununu, the so-called state of emergency finally ended earlier this year, so it went on for more than a year. And and after that happened, things sort of started to return to some semblance of normalcy, as far as, there were no more mandates being shoved down people's throats. But this guy has not been particularly friendly towards, freedom, especially in the last 18 months. What you're referring to is there was something passed this summer, thanks to the legislature, that does prohibit a government-ordered vaccine mandate, as I understand it. So no government agency in New Hampshire can mandate the vaccine in any way, shape, or form, from what I understand.
But it sounded like employers such as hospitals are, like private entities, are still able to mandate it, and that people there are losing their jobs.
As I understand it, yes, that is what's happening.
You could say hospitals are like public entities, but it's not government agencies. So,
well, there is an argument that if you're taking money from the government, you should be considered a government agency, but I don't know if any of the hospital employees are taking that tact on a legal stance in court.
And I'm sure Hitchcock, what is it, Dartmouth Hitchcock, they probably take a lot of government money.
I suspect they do.
Yeah, big research facility.
And they're one of them who's mandating it, from what the crowd was saying at that meeting.
Correct.
That's a university research hospital, so I mean, they're definitely taking tons of government money.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of my friends, he called in anonymously about how he works there, and he's not going to take the jab. And I believe he went the religious exemption route. I said, don't even do that. Just get fired. And
yeah, it's interesting. We're going to see how things shake out. I heard a rumor that tomorrow is the deadline for Dartmouth Hitchcock employees to get their vaccination or whatever in order to keep their job. So the showdown is imminent on this one, at least according to the rumors I've heard. There was supposed to be a protest today out in front of the Dartmouth Hitchcock Medical Center here in Keene. This company has hospitals throughout New Hampshire, so they're a huge leviathan, if you will, that's spread out all over the place. But yeah, I mean, New Hampshire does have a government prohibition on government mandated vaccine mandates, as I understand it. So that's a little bit of good news. How they got him to sign that bill, I'm not sure what sort of political wrangling they used, but I don't get the feeling that Chris Sununu is like some sort of defender of freedom in this way. So I don't know what the inside scoop was on.
He's been great on guns.
He's been good on a few things. Yeah, no doubt. But
actually, that movie did with guns made New Hampshire the freest state in the country when it came to guns.
Is that true?
Well, I look at it that way because there's no other laws on the books that I've noticed where you can actually, brandish your weapon as long as you're not like threatening someone. You can show it off in public, and like you can verbally say to someone, "Hey, I have a gun." Which is like, way to say that I'm going to protect myself if you come at me. And these things in other states would be held against you.
This is not legal advice. Joe is not an attorney.
Who are not mandating?
What's that, Jennifer?
Because I'm in healthcare, so we're most of us here in healthcare are mandated by our, bride of Satan, new governor, Kathy Hochul. No religious exemption. Some people have been successful because there's a temporary court restraining order, but that may not last. So I guess an important question for me is, are there any liberty-friendly healthcare employers up there who are not mandating the vaccine as of now?
That's an excellent question, and I would say that the best way to get that question answered would be to connect with the Health Freedom New Hampshire. There's a group here that is connected with a lot of these nurses, for instance, that are involved in the protests that have been going on here, and I suspect they would have a very specific answer about that, and I don't know.
Another option, who's somebody who stays right on top of that whole situation, is my beautiful and loving girlfriend Nikki, who hosts Free Talk Live on Wednesdays and Sundays. So Jennifer, I would love to hear you call in and rant with Nikki on this, because she'd be right with you on every step of the way, and she'd probably have a lot of good information for you, too.
Jennifer, could you hang on? Can we continue this conversation with you?
Sure.
All right, good. I want to put Jennifer on hold here for just a moment. We're going to continue. The number, if you want to join us, is 603-283-6160, because the healthcare providers that care about freedom are facing a serious situation. A lot of them have, in a lot of places, already lost their jobs. There have been thousands of jobs that have been cut at various different facilities across the country. That's happening this month. And so that means there's all these sort of free agents now out there in healthcare that are looking to figure out what their next step is going to be. There's more coming up here. It's Free Talk Live. Free Talk Live's video archives have been on Library for years. Library is an uncensorable, decentralized, blockchain-based media sharing protocol, and we're big fans of it here on Free Talk Live. In 2020, Library launched Odyssey, a video sharing website to compete with YouTube, and it's really taking off. Now with over 1 million channels, many of whom are disaffected YouTube creators. During YouTube's crackdown for not towing the government line on COVID, the Free Talk Live YouTube channel started receiving strikes and could be completely taken down at any moment. Thankfully, Odyssey started offering live streaming, so we're now streaming live every night and posting our video archives permanently to Odyssey. You can watch live or anytime on our Odyssey channel by visiting video.freetalklive.com. If you want to go all in, download the desktop app at lbry.com, and then every video archive you watch, you'll help seed and keep it online forever. At minimum, we ask you visit video.freetalklive.com and follow us on Odyssey today. video.freetalklive.com.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Rebecca Foster. The U.S. Senate has agreed to a short-term deal that will increase America's debt ceiling. The bipartisan agreement avoids the government defaulting on its debts for the first time in history. Our Washington correspondent Nick Harper reports.
With the clock ticking and just 11 days remaining until the government defaulted, Democratic and Republican senators reached a consensus. It means the U.S. can continue borrowing into early December. The deal has been struck, but the senators still need to vote on the measure. That's expected to happen at some point over the next couple of days. It follows a vicious back and forth and in-party fighting for the Democrats. The Republicans also putting up roadblocks in response to the Biden administration's broader spending plans, including a proposed $3.5 trillion package.
England's red list for international travel, requiring hotel quarantine on arrival, is being cut down to just 7 countries. The UK government's also expanding the list of countries from which it will recognize vaccine certification for travel. Here's Ollie Barrett from London.
Panama, Colombia, Venezuela, Peru, Ecuador, Haiti and the Dominican Republic are now the only countries left on the red list. Several major tourist destinations come off, including Mexico and South Africa, so fully vaccinated Britons who return from the vast majority of countries in the world do not need to quarantine and face relaxed testing requirements too. The UK is recognising fully vaccinated status from 37 more countries and territories. Critics say the UK's traffic light system has been confusing and unfair at times. Ollie Barrett, London.
The European Union's executive has called for an investigation into the illegal pushback of migrants at the bloc's external border. There have been allegations of pushback operations in EU member states Greece, Croatia, and Romania. Lucy Hoff has more from Brussels.
Video footage published in German media appears to show officers pushing migrants back across the EU's borders in Romania, Croatia and Greece. Footage includes a Greek coast guard seemingly forcing a group of migrants back into the Aegean Sea. The European Commission has said it is deeply concerned by the reports of illegal pushbacks and has called for an investigation. Under international law, it is illegal to send potential asylum seekers back to where they could be in danger. Both Greece and Croatia say they are looking into the allegations, but Croatia says its police have acted in line with the law.
U.S. forces have been secretly operating in Taiwan for at least a year, according to reporting in the Wall Street Journal. A U.S. Special Operations Unit and a contingent of Marines have been training military forces there as concerns mount about potential aggression from China. From bureaus worldwide, this is FS.
Don't miss a moment of Free Talk Live. Get our archives daily via our podcast at feeds.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live. The phones here are open if you want to join us. The number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. Here in the studio tonight, it's Ian, Matt, and Joa. By the way, you can join us online anytime. Head over to freetalklive.com. I actually just blew up the old website today, so you may find some broken links. You may find some problems here and there, because honestly, I haven't had a chance to really do any that much bug testing on it. It's been a bit of a busy day, but that was something I've been looking to do for some number of years, was get rid of the old site and put something in its place. Part of the reason is the old site was run on a system called Drupal, which, if you know programming stuff, you know web service, web content management systems, Drupal is one of the most complex and frustrating ones to deal with. And I just had it. Things were breaking, and I didn't feel like spending the tens of thousands of dollars it would likely take to fix those things. So put up a quickie WordPress site, and it's there. So check it out over at freetalklive.com. Archives are still available. Live streaming still available. There are a few things that I haven't been able to port over from the old site yet, so that may take some time. But I'm feeling better. I'm feeling like I've cleaned house a little bit here today.
Nice.
So,
high five.
So, yeah, thanks. So it's Ian, Matt, and Joa in the studio tonight. We got Jennifer on the line. She's a healthcare provider in New York State. Have you lost your job yet, Jennifer, or is that something that's coming for you?
No, it probably is coming, particularly if the national mandates kick in, where anybody who bills for Medicare, Medicaid services, employers with 100 or more employees, and that's the next direction I wanted to go in inquiring about the climate in New Hampshire, since Sununu is, for whatever reason, against state mandates, like, to a certain extent. Does anybody know how it's going to work with, if there's a national mandate that actually takes effect? Would he, block that from taking place in the state?
Well, we can't speak for this guy, right? Because, I tend to be a little pessimistic towards him, but recently the things he's been saying have sounded okay, but he's a politician, so, you can't believe it when he says he doesn't have an intention to do blah, blah, blah. Well, his intention could change tomorrow.
Scumbaggery is in his DNA.
Yeah, so, you can't trust this guy as far as you can throw him. The good news is in New Hampshire is every 2 years there's a full-on state election where every single state representative and the governor is up for election. And
that was my next question.
Yeah, from what I understand, Sununu is not planning on running for re-election for governor. He's planning on going for like a U.S. Senate seat or something like that, so moving into D.C.
I heard that.
So that means it'll be an open game as far as who will be the next governor, because there'll be no incumbent. So it really could be anybody. And in New Hampshire, running for governor is all of $100 filing fee. So it's way easier to run for office in New Hampshire than it is in a lot of other places. In New Hampshire, state reps get paid $100 a year. It's
oh, I know. So they really have to want to do it, right?
Yeah, it's basically a volunteer position. They get a small gas stipend, and that's it. In order to be a state representative here.
I think you should consider not running, because we're just going to continue protesting his house, and he's going to have to hear us from a distance.
Honestly, if he's a U.S. senator, I'm not. There's no reason for me to protest at his house. That's like, he's over there. He's doing things in D.C., and I don't. There's very little that we can do about what they do in D.C., and there's very little that he could do. Even if Sununu was a good guy, he couldn't do anything in D.C., right? Because what did Ron Paul do? He made some good speeches,
right?
But
when we secede,
I want to on his way out.
That was epic.
Yeah. When we secede, I want to make sure that it's one of the border crossing rules. Your name can't be Sununu, and then we're maybe all set. Yeah.
So here's the other thing I wanted to kind of expand on a little bit as I was going out to the break earlier was, you've got this situation now across the United States where already the job cuts have been happening. I've been seeing the headlines of thousands of people at this one medical company, thousands of people at this hospital, so it's already happening. where they're cutting a ton of people's jobs because they're not getting the vaccine because they are health professionals who are questioning things.
Yeah,
They're
I see other ads that are kind of geared toward hiring, and they're saying there's not enough nurses. We are short on nurses, and they're taxed. It's like, well, you just fired 500 nurses.
Now they're
Healthier
making-
ones too.
They're making it even worse now. So, the question, of course, is what options do these people have as far as other work is concerned? Because, if this crackdown continues and there's no reason to expect it's going to get better, they're going to likely make it more difficult. They're probably going to start prohibiting these people from getting new jobs. Like, oh, you can't hire the unvaccinated nurses at your facility because we're going to pull your license.
State licensing.
Right, right.
Well, I can tell you what people here plan on doing. And I'm not, I don't know all the legalities, the ins and outs of it, but people
Are you talking
here
about the Binghamton area specifically, or are you talking about all of New York?
Yeah, well, the entire state, but more so, I talk to more people here, but I'm in statewide groups as well, because everybody's afraid that when people walk away from their jobs, that they're still not going to get vaccinated. So my thought is that they may say, well, you can't renew your license again unless you show proof of vaccination. So, and besides, nobody wants to comply with the other mandates either, the masks or any of it, if it comes to that again. So people are looking into forming private health associations or private membership associations where they're practicing outside of the public domain.
And
So
would you be able to? Is that a
contract?
Is that a workaround for licensing where you could be like sort of like a private club? Like here in Keene, New Hampshire, there used to be a hookah lounge, and it came about a couple years after they banned smoking in all businesses. Well, there was a workaround for that, which was to become a private club. And if you're a private club, then you could still have smoking because it's not quote unquote public. Is there a way around that? Do you think in New York?
Well, that's why I have a friend who's a chiropractor who is starting such a group with physical therapists, other like clinical pharmacists, massage therapists. And from what I hear, it is feasible. Now, I don't know if it's, I'm sure the state could still come in and try to raid the place or whatever. But I know it's like a lot of people are trying to get away from the traditional model of like, well, just writing prescriptions or just dispensing medicine and doing more of like an integrative, healthy, holistic type of practice.
I just started with a doctor here. She actually takes cryptocurrency. I'm not paying in cryptocurrency because I can't legally under the bail conditions I'm on, but they're doing what's called direct primary care, where you pay on a monthly or a yearly basis. You get service directly from the doctor. She doesn't even there's no office staff. It's just the two doctors. It's a couple, and that's it. When you call up, you're talking to one of them. I
think it's brilliant.
When you go in, you're talking to them. She sat with me for an hour.
That sounds like too.
It was amazing. I mean, when's the last time you sat with a doctor for an hour?
Yeah. The insurance gives them 6 minutes. Here's your script. See you later. Bye-bye.
Right, yeah. They don't take insurance. It's cash or crypto only, and that's it. And it's a totally different business model. Now, here's the other thing is like I love this idea of this sort of underground network or this private network of doctors that's willing to do house calls or whatever. You come to their house. That's awesome. And if you can get around the licensing laws in that way, I think that's amazing. But I do agree with you. It's likely that New York will try to crack down just because it's New York. I mean, of course, they're going to do something like that. This is, I think, where a deliberate gathering of like-minded people can make all the difference, because that's what's been happening here in New Hampshire now since 2003. And so we're coming up on 20 years. Within a couple of years, it'll be 20 years that the Free State Project migration has been happening here. Now, nothing is going to change overnight in these ways, but if enough freedom-loving medical people come to New Hampshire, if enough freedom lovers in general come to New Hampshire, there's no reason why, with nearly 100 relatively pro-liberty, some of them are good on most issues, but not good on some. So like relatively, A, B level kind of rating, pro-liberty ratings here in New Hampshire. With 100 out of 400 state reps, we've got some significant bargaining power in the state house. And the more people that move here, the more people that run for these positions, it's not unfeasible to think that within the next several years, we could completely eliminate licensing for the medical business.
How outstanding. Jennifer, come home.
But that's what it takes. It's got to. And Jennifer, thanks for the call tonight. We'll look forward to seeing you here in New Hampshire. At least come out to visit and meet some people in the medical field. Come out to a Health Freedom New Hampshire event and start kind of getting the lay of the land.
Do some free aid at PorkFest.
Yeah, and thanks for the call. We'll continue this discussion on the way. We're coming up here. This is Free Talk Live.
Do you know the difference between erudite and pedantic? If you do, you're probably pedantic. But seriously, a surprising number of erudite people mispronounce erudite, which has 3 syllables, not 4. Say erudite, not erudite. Because you are judged by how you speak, you want to avoid common misstatements, especially if you're a job seeker. For instance, do you know the difference between imply and infer? Only a speaker can imply. Only a listener can infer. And when you say you'll be out of pocket, do you mean out of touch? Out of pocket means you're on your own dime, not yet reimbursed. And if anyone ever asks, why do you always answer a question with a question? You should reply, do I do that? Just kidding. From survivalspeech.com, I'm Holland Cook.
Looking for a great real estate investment? Consider New Hampshire, which is ground zero for the Liberty Movement. Your first call should be to Mark Worden from Porcupine Real Estate. He's more than just a real estate agent. He's your New Hampshire concierge. Where are the best places to live? Do you want farm, city, the burbs, or forest? Do you want a duplex or multifamily building so that renters pay your mortgage? There are homes in all price ranges in New Hampshire, and Mark can help with financing too. Invest in liberty and property. Mark Worden can help.
PorcupineRealEstate.com.
Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. chat.lrn.fm.
Free Talk Live.
3-year-old child lost his arm after being viciously attacked by a pit bull terrier earlier this month.
Gosh.
Now the incident has moved a state lawmaker to author legislation that will effectively ban the pit bull breed in the entire state of Oklahoma.
Wow. Wouldn't all of Mr. Wesselhoff's constituents be a little safer if we all just couldn't have any dogs at all?
That's true. It would guarantee that no one would be bitten by dogs.
Right, and no cats.
What about cats? They scratch people.
They do scratch people, and it leaves a nasty infection.
It could, certainly.
Certainly.
We should ban infections, too, while we're at it. I mean, while we're protecting everyone from everything.
Birds can carry the flu. We know that.
You know, we should just exterminate all animals with teeth.
Well, forget the teeth. The birds have no teeth. I say we kill them all.
Just every animal.
Yeah.
Okay. What about insects? You could just sign a law that bans mosquitoes.
That'd be great.
Free Talk Live, 7 nights a week from 7 to 10 Eastern, live on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
Some of you asked, and now we've delivered. LRN.FM's live Keene, New Hampshire studio shows are now streamed in HD on Twitch. Visit our channel at twitch.lrn.fm and give it a follow. If you have Amazon Prime, you get 1 free subscription on Twitch. If you use it on our channel, Twitch will give LRN.FM a monthly piece of your Prime subscription cost. So please watch, follow, share, and subscribe to twitch.lrn.fm. That's twitch.lrn.fm. So you've signed the Shire Society Declaration and are planning your move to New Hampshire to be around more liberty-oriented people. Next, sign up for the Shire Society Forum at forum.shiresociety.com. There are a bunch of people there who are already in the Shire, and they want to meet you. If you're already in the Shire physically, you should also come by the forums. Remember, not everyone uses Facebook. New people are signing up for the Shire Society Forum every month, so drop in and say hello at forum.shiresociety.com.
We're still not sure why you'd want to watch, but our video feed is streaming nightly for free at cam.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live, and of course, you're invited if you want to join us here. The number is 603-283-6160. 603-283-6160. Joining you in the studio tonight, you've got Ian,
Matt, and Joa.
We were just talking with a nurse. I think was she a nurse?
I don't think so. She's in healthcare.
She's in healthcare. In New York State, she's looking to get the hell out, considering making the move here to New Hampshire, as a lot of people who are sane are considering doing. The people who care about liberty, if you care about freedom, and you live in a place like New York or California, you need to get with the program and realize things are not going to get better there. It does not matter who you run for office. It doesn't matter if it's Larry Elder in California or who's the guy that always runs in New York?
I can't remember.
The libertarian guy.
I'm not sure.
I feel like it's another Larry, but I
do too. Larry's. I can't remember now,
Anyway.
but either way, it doesn't matter. He's not going to win.
Yeah, he runs for libertarian governor. He raises like $100,000 or more. Larry Sharp. Thank you, Bonnie.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so nope, you're not going to win. It's New York. You have no chance. You need to get out. You need to do a strategic regroup. There's nothing wrong with a regroup, right? With a strategic retreat. You realize you're losing, okay? You have to become aware that you are not going to make it against this enemy, that they have the establishment. They have total control of the establishment in all of these places. Here in New Hampshire, they don't. In fact, in New Hampshire, NHPR, the government-run, government-paid-for, quote-unquote, news agency, New Hampshire Public Radio, posted an article recently titled, "Established New Hampshire Libertarian Activists Drive Coronavirus Protests." The whole article is about how the libertarians are, quote, established here in New Hampshire.
Yeah.
When has the word established and libertarian ever shown up in the same article, right? So I can tell you more about
the libertarian establishment.
Yeah, and I do want to share this story because it is very interesting. But Joey, you had an interesting personal story that you encountered somebody at a new movers party this week. You were at every month the Free State Project puts on. I don't know if it's officially the Free State Project, but Free Staters, Liberty people here in New Hampshire, they throw a party.
Yeah.
On one Tuesday, I think it's the first Tuesday of every month. It's open to anybody who's new, basically, and not new.
Kind of like moved here for the liberty.
Yeah, for the migration.
Yeah.
And you went to this one this month. And you don't have to say who it was, but what's the story? Who'd you meet?
Actually, I don't remember her name, but this young woman, she was like, I just moved here. I think she said from Indiana or something. And she's like, I just heard the interview with Jeremy Coffin and Tim Pool. And we were talking about this, I think, last week. The interview was happening, I think, as we were watching doing the show, or at least you listened to it on the break. And she's like, I just heard the interview.
No, I listened to the whole thing later. I listened to all 2 hours of it. Okay. It was really good.
And
Jeremy Coffin did amazing.
Well, that's what convinced her to move here. And I was like, wait a second, that just happened like
that's
a week
less
ago.
than 2 weeks. Yeah.
Yeah, and I was like, wow, she made a move real quick because she was just so inspired from that one little talk. And I think we're going to see it drive. I see people all the time that are new. Oh, yeah, I just moved here. I'm like, whoa, wow.
That's incredibly decisive action to say.
It is. And, fortune favors the bold.
Yeah.
My life has gotten nothing but better since I moved to New Hampshire. I can't even tell you how many different aspects of my life are 1,000% better since I left. Ways I never ways I didn't even know were bad.
Yeah.
I didn't even know these parts of my life were bad until I moved into New Hampshire. I'm like, wow, New York was really sucking the life out of me in ways I didn't even realize.
What's the opposite of you don't know what you got till you're until it's
That's
gone?
right.
It's the opposite, right?
And I think there's a whole lot of that. Guys, if you're out there and you're feeling subjugated at all, move here. Come be with us. Pick up your life. It sounds drastic. It sounds crazy, and it is.
Yeah,
but it's the
that's what it
best
takes.
idea you'll ever act on.
People are like I like to say, like people getting choked out if they're not in New Hampshire, and when they come here, they get a nice big fresh breath of air. Fresh breath air.
And you can watch people. When we had the Ian Fest, Ian was prohibited to go to Pork Fest, so we had a little Ian Fest right here.
Yeah, in our yard.
And maybe 60, 70 people showed up. I think a couple of the people that showed up were from California. This a young couple, Leaf and Wendy. Forgive me if you're listening. I forgot your name.
Yeah,
I think it's Wendy.
Nice folks.
Nice folks. They were awesome.
She was a nurse.
She was a nurse, actually. Yes, she was a nurse, and the gasp, the breath of fresh air, you could see it on their faces, like, Whoa, my God! It's such an overdose of awesome when you get here, and they're just so motivated and so inspired. That feeling of inspiration is boiling out of them. It's like, you guys have to leave California. You've got to get out of New York. You've got to get here.
Every time I leave the state, and like as I'm heading back to New Hampshire, and I cross that border, I know I'm not really into borders, but as soon as you cross that line, I feel relief that I'm back in New Hampshire every time.
Me too.
When I drive out of New Hampshire and I see the "Welcome to Vermont" sign, I'm like, oh man. And then I take it a step further. I'm going home to see my mom or go to work out there or something, and I'll cross the Vermont border into New York, and it says "Welcome to the Empire State," and I'm like,
sure does.
Oh,
it's
my
even
God.
worse.
Yeah.
It's like horrible. They changed it now. It doesn't say "Welcome to the Empire State" anymore. It says "Welcome to New York, Land of Opportunity."
False advertising.
Should just say, "We own you."
Yes.
That's it.
Don't forget your cuffs.
So, I mean, it's just so important for people to realize the strength that comes with numbers. I mean, ultimately, that's all that ever matters. Libertarians forever have been trying to win elections, and they've been failing and never growing, right? Like, if you look at libertarian election returns and you pick the state, it's never more than 1-2-ish%. And that's the way it was 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And it hasn't changed since then. If you want to actually have a chance, you got to move with other people that actually have a like mindset, and that's what's happening here. Now, we can't guarantee that within the next several years medical licensure will be eliminated from New Hampshire, but this is the only place where that's even a possibility.
It's not even a thought anywhere else.
This is the only place where there are state representatives who do not like licensing and would make the argument and would put the bill forward. Like, if Health Freedom New Hampshire were to write that bill and then submit it to a state legislator, he'd be like, sure, I'll put this in. And they'd probably get 10 co-signers on it too, and then maybe it would pass, maybe it wouldn't.
Establish more freedom. Yeah, done.
Yeah,
passed.
And here's the other thing: the New Hampshire, the Free State Project posted something this week, and by the way, they're ever since Jeremy Kauffman took over their Twitter account, they've been just killing it on Twitter. It's amazing stuff. He's having a blast with that, and it is.
Captain, my captain.
Yeah, it is fun to watch it. So he posted, it's at Free State NH on Twitter, and basically it is a statement from a presumable liberal, somebody who's a total statist authoritarian, saying they can no longer live in New Hampshire. They have left the state.
See ya.
They're out. They're now living 2 hours away from New Hampshire, which means they could be in Massachusetts or Connecticut or wherever. It doesn't matter where they are. They're not here anymore. And it's just one of those warms your heart kind of things, because it just goes to show that the more uncomfortable these statists get here in New Hampshire, the more futile it feels for them. Like, oh God, we can't win. Like, oh, how do these free staters keep winning? And they're going to give up at some point.
They are freaking out. They're writing articles freaking out about the libertarian takeover of the Republican Party.
Yep.
Just FYI, if we can, we'll take over the Democrat Party as well.
The ones that are in the Democrat Party are probably being a little more quiet about it, but they're there.
Absolutely.
I don't know who they are, but
the Democrat Party in New Hampshire is extremely vetted.
Yeah,
they are psychopathic about their vetting of their members. You can't just walk into a Democrat Party, gathering and say, "Hi, I'm a Democrat." They're gonna be like, "Oh,"
they're like, "Here, eat this baby."
Show us your credentials. We want to see your Democrat credentials.
Here's the exact quote. I feel like I read this a couple days ago, but it's just so good. I'm going to share it again here. From Azaram323 on Twitter, exactly why I stay 2 hours out of New Hampshire recently. So whoever it is was responding to something else somebody Free State posted. The fear of COVID, the white men openly carrying weapons, the disrespect for women's rights, the assault on healthcare workers, teachers, officials, etc. Thanks, NHGOP and Chris Sununu. I no longer feel safe in my home state. So somebody who is a native statist has moved out of New Hampshire. That's the hardest one to move.
It was never a good fit for them in the first place.
But I mean, it's harder to move a native out of New Hampshire than it is somebody who's already lived somewhere else, because they can just go home, right? They still have their friends in, Connecticut or wherever it is that they came from, so they can just pick up and go home. But for a native who is also somebody who's anti-liberty to pick up their lives and move out of New Hampshire, this is an incredible victory.
There's also the possibility. Sorry, Joe. Just the intellectual dishonesty that I've seen repeatedly out of statists, and especially out of leftists. They could have just been moving anyway and used that as a big dramatic exit.
Could be, yeah.
They're just confirming our success.
That's exactly right.
Totally.
It's an endorsement of how much we've made a difference.
I love them advertising for us.
Yeah. And so more are going to happen. This isn't the first. There's been a long line of statist authoritarians who've left over the last decade and a half here in New Hampshire. So we got more coming up here about how libertarians are now the establishment. Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you're helping the state. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at bitcoin.com. That's bitcoin.com.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. freeprivatecities.com.
The new 4th edition of Healing Our World, The Compassion of Libertarianism, will take your understanding of liberty to a deeper level and has over 1,300 updated references, new cartoons, and a foreword by Dr. Ron Paul. With discounts for multiple book purchases, the 4th edition of Healing Our World is a great gift for the liberals, pragmatists, environmentalists, and Christians in your life who think libertarianism is cold-hearted. Get yours today at healing.freetalklive.com and use promo code FTL for a $5 discount. If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 2 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Rebecca Foster. The U.S. Senate has agreed to a short-term deal that will increase America's debt ceiling. The bipartisan agreement avoids the government defaulting on its debts for the first time in history. Our Washington correspondent Nick Harper reports.
With the clock ticking and just 11 days remaining until the government defaulted, Democratic and Republican senators reached a consensus. It means the US can continue borrowing into early December. The deal has been struck, but the senators still need to vote on the measure. That's expected to happen at some point over the next couple of days. It follows a vicious back and forth and in-party fighting for the Democrats. The Republicans also putting up roadblocks in response to the Biden administration's broader spending plans, including a proposed $3.5 trillion package.
England's red list for international travel, requiring hotel quarantine on arrival, is being cut down to just 7 countries. The UK government's also expanding the list of countries from which it will recognize vaccine certification for travel. Here's Ollie Barrett from London.
Panama, Colombia, Venezuela, Peru, Ecuador, Haiti and the Dominican Republic are now the only countries left on the red list. Several major tourist destinations come off, including Mexico and South Africa, so fully vaccinated Britons who return from the vast majority of countries in the world do not need to quarantine and face relaxed testing requirements too. The UK is recognising fully vaccinated status from 37 more countries and territories. Critics say the UK's traffic light system has been confusing and unfair at times. Ollie Barrett, London.
The European Union's executive has called for an investigation into the illegal pushback of migrants at the bloc's external border. There have been allegations of pushback operations in EU member states Greece, Croatia, and Romania. Lucy Hoff has more from Brussels.
Video footage published in German media appears to show officers pushing migrants back across the EU's borders in Romania, Croatia and Greece. Footage includes a Greek coast guard seemingly forcing a group of migrants back into the Aegean Sea. The European Commission has said it is deeply concerned by the reports of illegal pushbacks and has called for an investigation. Under international law, it is illegal to send potential asylum seekers back to where they could be in danger. Both Greece and Croatia say they are looking into the allegations, but Croatia says its police have acted in line with the law.
U.S. forces have been secretly operating in Taiwan for at least a year, according to reporting in the Wall Street Journal. A U.S. Special Operations Unit and a contingent of Marines have been training military forces there as concerns mount about potential aggression from China. From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks. Today, more on Wednesday's news that was easy to miss, but vastly important for millions of people around the world. For the first time, the World Health Organization has approved a vaccine for use against malaria. After decades of work, the vaccine called Mosquirix has been shown effective in combating the deadliest of 5 malaria pathogens. It's manufactured by GlaxoSmithKline, and more than 800,000 children have participated in a pilot project in Ghana, Kenya and Malawi over the past 2 years. The news was announced in Geneva by Dr. Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus, head of the WHO.
I longed for the day that we would have an effective vaccine against this ancient and terrible disease. Today is that day, an historic day. Today, WHO is recommending the broad use of the world's first malaria vaccine. This long-awaited malaria vaccine is a breakthrough for science, child health, and malaria control.
As the vaccine is rolled out, particularly in sub-Saharan Africa, health analysts say it could save tens of thousands of lives a year. But it could take a year before distribution is widespread. Gavi, the global vaccine alliance that is already rolling out COVID-19 vaccines, must now make time to assess the impact of the malaria jab. With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks.
And the top news again. The U.S. Senate has agreed to a short-term deal that will increase America's debt ceiling. England's red list for international travel, requiring hotel quarantine on arrival, is being cut down to just 7 countries. And the European Union's executive has called for an investigation into the illegal pushback of migrants at the bloc's external border. And that's the latest from Feature Story News. Rebecca Foster reporting.
We have a breaking news blast on the tragic situation happening across the country in which more than 40,000 Americans have been trapped in a Confessions animal hoarding marathon on Animal Planet for the last 13 hours. The Animal Hoarders Marathon began at 9 this morning as victims were preparing for a full day before hearing the fateful sound of the show's opening credits. Almost instantly, thousands were pinned to their couches by a story of a heavyset homosexual living with his partner, his toothless sister, and 31 chihuahuas. Rescue workers rushed to free as many victims as they could.
The rope secure? Rope secure. We're gonna get you out of here. Just hold on a second, ma'am.
Wait, I think the next one is about monkeys.
Ready? Ready! Pull!
No, wait. Can I just see what happens with the feral cat?
In other parts of the country, rescue workers enlisted volunteers who had already seen the episodes to spoil them for the victims.
Oh, yeah, this one. This is about the lady living with the dogs in the trailer. She doesn't even get evicted in the end.
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live.
This is Free Talk Live. You can bring up what you want. We're kicking off the second hour of the program here. Open phones. As always, the number 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. Here in the studio tonight, it's Ian,
Matt,
and Joa.
So I asked the question before, when has have the two words established and libertarian ever been expressed in a news media story, let alone the headline? Well, it's happened now here in New Hampshire. Josh Rogers, of all places at New Hampshire Public Radio, filed this report just over a week ago. Now, I'm going to share it with you here. Coronavirus-related disinformation has steadily escalated in New Hampshire. So you can tell what the skew of this particular article is going to be. All right, so the government-run NHPR, New Hampshire Public Radio, is saying that anything besides what the government says is quote-unquote disinformation. So you're going to hear that word a few times in this story. Has steadily escalated in New Hampshire, at the State House, in debates over school policy, and in public protests. Some of it has taken the form of individual protests, with citizens showing up with homemade signs on street corners and the State House lawn. But plenty of the activity is driven by anti-government groups, with long-standing ties to libertarian politics in the state.
Terrorists.
With coordinated social media, fundraising efforts, candidate endorsements and advertising, and activist training, the effort resembles in some ways a burgeoning political campaign. Quote, COVID fascism is our motivation, stopping that from happening, said Andrew Manuse, a former Republican lawmaker who's long been active in libertarian-leaning activism in the state and is behind several of the groups organizing protests. And, by the way, Andrew is a Free State Project participant, as I understand it. He says, I think we have a lot of work to do. I'm not sure we're planning to go away anytime soon, unquote. The public faces of this protest presents a mix. There are fervent citizens for whom the pandemic has been a personal awakening, and those with no apparent ties to traditional political organizing. By the way, the lady who started all these like nurse protests that have been going on around New Hampshire out in front of the hospitals here, she was like woken up to this 2 months ago.
Wow.
From what I've heard. I've not spoken with her yet personally, but from people that know her, she's relatively new to this. It's like, oh, all of a sudden the state she's realized is a threat.
Whoa.
And that bad things are happening, so now she's active. And she's so active and she's been so successful in her, rising activist stardom that she just organized the event that happened last weekend here in New Hampshire that some say attracted over 1,000 people to march in the streets of Concord. So she went from zero to top-level activist.
That's very significant
within a
number
couple
of people,
months.
too.
Yeah, it's incredible. And now, by the way, she's publicly endorsing New Hampshire independence.
Great.
What?
So, yeah.
That's how fast that happens. You know, hey, it's, 6 weeks to, if you live in New Hampshire, it's 6 weeks from statism to anarchist.
Yeah, instead of 6 months if you live
I'm a
outside
libertarian.
of
I believe in a small central government. Yeah, give yourself 6 more weeks.
Just hang around with the right people.
You'll be an anarchist.
Right.
So, things are moving in the right direction here for sure. Anyway, back to the story here from NHPR. There are people with years of experience in anti-government protests, those who frequented Tea Party rallies of a decade ago, pro-Trump events in recent years, or even run-of-the-mill partisan Republican events. But this movement is more than a few activated people. There are also several organizations working to build broader support behind these efforts, groups with names like Absolute Defiance, the Government Integrity Project, Rise Up New Hampshire, appear loosely connected on social media via Facebook, listserv emails, or on right-leaning platforms like Telegram. By the way, one of the guys behind Rise Up New Hampshire is a former leftist. He's one of the people who has organized the freedom rallies that have been happening here in New Hampshire, or here in Keene.
What's his
for
name?
The last several weeks. First name's John. I forget the last name, but I think he's in our Keene chat on Telegram. At least I added him right before the raid happened, and I'm not allowed on Telegram, so I can't verify that for you. But I'm pretty sure he's still in there. But he shared with me at one of the recent freedom rallies that his history is he used to be a Bernie guy, and now he's totally for freedom. So, people can come from all over the political spectrum.
Yeah, if freedom's popular. If you look at how popular Ron Paul got during the 2012 campaign, especially, there were people climbing trees outside of stadiums so they could see over the walls and just listen to him talk. That no other, freedom's and Ron Paul's just an average old man.
Right.
Well, I wouldn't say he's average.
Well, he's delivering
exceptional by definition.
Yeah, but he's delivering a very easy message that everybody can agree with. I mean, and that.
But can they? Can everybody agree with it? Because if everybody could agree with liberty, then we'd be there, wouldn't we?
Yeah, I don't think
they can.
I don't think most Americans realize how anti-liberty they actually are.
No, I think you're right about that. And this is one of the things that I've changed my mind about over the last couple of years, especially because of COVID and the Americans' just weak-ass response to it generally. And Jeremy Kauffman has kind of put this, I think, into words very, very well at some of his speeches that he's given. It's like Americans don't want freedom. A lot of them. They really don't. They want to be told what to do. And they love having some sort of so-called authority out there to look to take care of them. We will never convert these people.
No, they need a parental figure.
And so that's why moving together, migrating together is the only potential answer. You libertarians out there trying to win an election and wherever you happen to live, it ain't happening. Because those people are not libertarians. They're not some sort of secret libertarian. They're not secretly freedom-oriented. They may want freedom for themselves personally, but they don't care about your freedom. They don't care about the freedom for others, so they don't care about freedom.
Yeah, and there's a boatload of Republicans out there who are looking around at this saying, whoa, this is dangerous. And there's even a bunch of Democrats out there who are staying very quiet about their feelings, but they're looking around saying, this is not my granddaddy's democracy that I was, So, it might be a good time to start saying, guys, wake up. Liberty is what you're actually after this whole time. Embrace it. Listen.
You know what's fascinating is like some of the people that have been living in this state, they're called, they're realizing how free they're becoming, and like because of the prosperity that's occurring here, and they're coming around to it.
Yeah.
So it's not just an acceleration of getting people here, but the people that have already been here are realizing how important this all really is.
Yes.
And
that's part of why this movement exists, is to back up the existing people in New Hampshire who actually are natively in agreement with freedom. And that's one of the reasons why New Hampshire was chosen as the destination for the Free State Project over 9 other candidate states.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons was because there's a sort of native feeling of freedom here. There's this native belief of leaving other people alone and letting people live their lives and, being left alone.
Yeah, LFOD is a big deal. I mean, it's in the DNA of New Hampshire.
It is. And so it's just so important for people who believe in liberty to move here together, because we're already winning and we can amplify that. The more thousands of people that come here that love freedom, the more those natives are going to get turned on, because there's a lot of natives here in New Hampshire who had like just given up. They love freedom, but they're not willing to do anything because they know it's a hopeless cause. They just want to live their lives and do the thing that they love to do and hopefully be left alone as much as they possibly can.
You got a whole other group of people out there like, stupid Free Staters. They hate the Free Staters. And they go back to where you came from. And then you sit down and talk to them, and it's like, well, do you know what we're trying to accomplish here? We're trying to reduce taxes and make sure your gun rights stay intact forever, and your grandkids will be able to hand down your guns to them. And after a while, they're like, that's what you guys are doing? Yeah. Well, I'm sorry I've been mean to you for the last 3 years.
It's true. It's totally true.
So here's a little bit more from the story from NHPR. All available. Okay, so then there's the propaganda piece here. They say all available evidence shows vaccination from COVID-19 is safe and represents the best way to prevent death or serious illness related to the disease. Wearing face masks is also one of the best ways to prevent the spread of COVID-19. They just got to throw that paragraph in there. It's government propaganda. Yeah. But then they go on with the story. Rebuild NH is perhaps the most conspicuous of these organizations. Since the start of the so-called pandemic, it has fought COVID mitigation measures imposed by Governor Chris Sununu. Originally launched as Reopen New Hampshire, the group now has a more far-reaching set of goals, including limiting the power of governors to issue executive orders and rejecting federal efforts to share in the pandemic response. One of the things that they did with this Reopen New Hampshire, which is now, again, Rebuild New Hampshire, was they had a petition early on to, quote-unquote, reopen New Hampshire, and thousands of people signed it. And that basically gave them an email list of thousands of people in New Hampshire that care about, some level of freedom. And now they use those emails. Yeah, now they use that email list to market the next step and the next step and the next step. We'll continue here. It's Free Talk Live.
Breaking weather news. Belize is sunny and around 82 degrees every day this week.
What's the forecast for your life? If current politics and economic prospects are cramping your freedom, escape to the tropics. ECI Development has affordable second homes for you to own or rent in Belize and other tropical countries. Places with stable governments and growing economies. Secure your freedom now. To find out more, send an email to ftl@ecidevelopment.com.
Brute force. intransigent defiance, adamantine will. These are the hallmarks of the AI tank. These gigantic machines have the firepower of an army, but they also have their own sense of honor and duty. When the world breakers arrive, battle will be joined, planets will shake, and war and peace will never be the same again. World Breakers. Stories from David Weber, Larry Correia, and more. Available August 3rd from BaneBooks.com.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at Bitcoin.com. That's Bitcoin.com.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. freeprivatecities.com.
Hey, you are going to love the movie Victimless Crime Spree. It's hilarious, heartwarming, and carries a ton of inspiring freedom messages. Feeling down about the lack of liberty in your life? You need to put on this film with some friends and have a good laugh. It's a true story about me and my friends in New Hampshire living free, singing, dancing, and getting arrested. Of course, it's all on video, and the bad guys, the cops, judges, bailiffs, and sheriffs, they all play their part like it's out of a movie or something. You would think we scripted the whole thing, but it's real life. Go ahead and have a watch, and if it's been a while, have another look. I guarantee you'll notice things now that you didn't notice before. And the best part is that you're going to walk away feeling a renewed sense of your own power. You are the master of your destiny, and you will be free in your lifetime. Victimless Crime Spree.
The LRN.FM social media channels have been revamped. We've eliminated Facebook and focused on other platforms like Twitter and Mastodon, the decentralized alternative to Twitter. On our accounts, you'll find posts from multiple LRN.FM show hosts together in one place. Follow us on Twitter at twitter.lrn.fm, or better yet, move to the decentralized Mastodon social media platform at toot.lrn.fm, toot.lrn.fm. I think you'll like it.
Are you tired of your taxes funding endless occupations around the world? Antiwar.com is run by people who understand that wars abroad become wars at home, wars on our freedoms. Antiwar.com is dedicated to bringing you the latest in news, views, interviews, and reviews from the top movers and shakers in the anti-occupation movement. Antiwar.com has it all, from thorough foreign policy analysis to interviews with whistleblowers who used to run the military-industrial complex. Anti-war, pro-free market. That's antiwar.com.
Yep, we still do email. Drop your email address in the entry box at freetalklive.com, and you'll be kept in the loop with Free Talk Live.
This is Free Talk Live. You can bring up whatever you want to discuss. The number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. Coming up, we're going to get into some of the healthcare news. There's some crazy stuff out there. Somebody denied a kidney transplant basically because he doesn't have the COVID vaccination. Also, Joe has got a story about a Louisiana healthcare system, which there's some pretty crazy news about basically denying healthcare or fining employees.
That's right.
Who don't have their partners vaccinated. So we can talk about all of those things here tonight with you. It's Ian,
Matt, and Joa.
But first, we're talking. We got off on the discussion about New Hampshire and people considering making a move here who actually care about freedom because, well, look, the fact is we're winning here. I mean, there's actually statists who are hating their lives because they have to deal with freedom lovers here that are active. And according to New Hampshire Public Radio, not just active, but, quote, established That's the story here from New Hampshire Public Radio. Headline: Established New Hampshire libertarian activists drive coronavirus protests. So they're looking at who are the people behind the scenes of these massive protests that have happened with hundreds of people at the State House, and going to a governor's meeting last week and basically them canceling the meeting because there were too many people there and the state employees, quote unquote, feared for their lives.
You know, as a person who's 6 feet 3 inches tall and a member of the libertarian establishment, I want to buy some like 8-inch platform shoes so I can look down my nose even harder at those statist, politician loving proles.
So they're talking about the individuals who are behind these groups. So one of the groups is called Rebuild New Hampshire. It was originally called Reopen New Hampshire. They renamed it after New Hampshire, quote unquote, reopened, because there's still a lot of work to be done. And they've got a great list of thousands of mostly freedom-loving people, at the very least people who cared enough to sign a petition to reopen New Hampshire. That's a great list to market to say, hey, here's the next thing we need your help with. Here's the next thing we need. We need people to run for office. We need to endorse. They actually endorsed people in 2020 who were running for office. They sent out a survey. I don't know if you remember getting it, Matt, but we were both running, I think, for state rep that year.
Yep.
And they sent out a survey asking questions about do you support freedom to do business, even during a pandemic, quote unquote. And they ranked all of the people that responded and made recommendations about who should vote for these folks. So, I mean, they went from zero, meaning not existing, to being, giving endorsements to candidates within 9 months. Which is
crazy.
Amazing. So the group is relatively new. It was founded by 3 people who've been active in New Hampshire conservative politics for some time. Andrew Manuse, J.R. Howell, who is a former state representative himself. Actually, I don't know if he's currently one, but he was a multi-term state rep. And Carolyn McKinney. Manuse and Howell are 2 former House members with ties to libertarian politics. Although Howell, he's good on a lot of libertarian issues, he's also like a pretty conservative dude when it comes to some other ones like abortion, for instance. But anyway, McKinney is the former leader of the New Hampshire Liberty Caucus. Rebuild New Hampshire's current executive director is a state lawmaker herself, Melissa Blasek. She, like many people looking to lead this movement, presents the current moment in stark terms. Quote, "People are really, really scared," she said in a video posted to the Rebuild NH website about proposed vaccine mandates. She said further, "If this can be done, there's no limit to the authoritarianism," unquote. Rebuild New Hampshire's foothold in elected politics is reflected in how they operate. It was formed as a political action committee that endorsed and bought Facebook ads for state candidates in the 2020 elections. The group has also spun off 2 other enterprises: the Liberty Defense Fund of New Hampshire, a corporate entity raising money for lawsuits around the pandemic and vaccination policies. And you guys might remember we raised money for the Liberty Defense Fund at our New Year's Eve party this year, Quarantine. And that's because they were backing up a liberty activist who had been arrested for going to the park, where she brought her kids to the park in April of 2020. Concord police were called, and they didn't arrest her right then, but 5 months later, they then showed up, I think she found out there was a warrant for her arrest, and she turned herself in and got booked and all that. Ultimately, by the way, she won her trial.
That lady's a total hero.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's what happens when you stand up and say no. Yeah,
it can
I'll go
happen
through your court process. Let's do this.
It doesn't always happen.
Doesn't always, but
the only way you could win is by going to court and actually fighting it. And she did that. And by the way, her attorney was a Free State Project member himself.
Who's that?
In that case, Dan Hines.
Oh.
Nice. Yeah. So
I heard we've got another attorney in.
There's a couple of them.
Yeah,
there's a few.
I got a good one.
Yeah. The group also founded New Hampshire Healthcare Workers for Freedom to organize healthcare workers in fighting employer vaccine mandates. In October, Rebuild New Hampshire will facilitate a training for activists from the Foundation for Applied Conservative Leadership, a Virginia-based nonprofit run by a political consultant who's worked for Ron and Rand Paul. The training will cost $40 to attend. It will purportedly show activists how to navigate elected officials and be, quote, feared and respected, unquote. Fear and respect is one goal, says NHPR, but it's hard to discern the direct impact of this activity on the state's COVID response. Still, there already appear to be overlaps between activism and policymaking. Just days after a large September anti-vaccine protest at the State House where protesters heckled Republican lawmakers, a legislative committee turned down $27 million in federal money meant to boost the state's vaccination efforts. And this is what I don't understand is, how did this committee turn down $27 million and then it ended up in front of the governor? So what was the political ugly process that went in between the committee denying this $27 million? Because I presume it's the same $27 million.
It's got to be.
Right? So, and then all of a sudden last week we hear about this meeting where the governor and the executive council is going to meet to accept, presumably, or to discuss accepting the $27 million. So what happened between this committee and last week? That's what I've not heard of. I don't know the details there. Anyway.
I'm not sure.
The Republican chairman of the committee, Representative Kenneth Whaler, said he simply did not believe what state health officials were saying about COVID infections and cited disinformation about the efficacy of vaccines. Quote, this is what the head of this committee, this state-run committee, had to say, quote, there's no one in government you can trust. Unquote. Isn't that just one of those New Hampshire things?
Should I trust him?
Well, he's saying not to.
Yeah, I know.
Which is the amazing thing. Like, when do you ever hear that being said by somebody in a position of power?
You wouldn't hear that coming out of a New York State rep.
Sure as hell wouldn't. There's no one in government you can trust, said Whaler, who's one of the top-ranking lawmakers in the State House.
Outstanding. I do love this state.
Last week, one of the loudest New Hampshire anti-vaccine mandate activists, nurse named Therese Grinnell, who we mentioned earlier tonight,
high five to
had
her.
a phone call with Sununu's chief of staff, Jane Millerick. Both sides said it wasn't a negotiation, but Grinnell did present the governor's office with a list of policy goals, most of them straight from what protesters have been demanding. She told Millerick, quote, either Sununu steps up and does his job, or he's going to have a whole other pandemic on his hands because there's so much civil unrest and righteous anger right now, unquote. Spokesbureaucrat for Sununu said the meeting with Grinnell was a routine conversation with a constituent. The pressure extends beyond the governor's office, though. Some bills proposed by Republican lawmakers for 2022 push the policies which would undercut government control over medical decisions around the coronavirus. There are bills to limit the powers of government during a pandemic, to blunt vaccine mandates, to revisit the notion of the state's vaccine registry, and to bar employers from considering vaccination status in hiring decisions, among others. Now, these are just bills. You know, they haven't passed yet,
right.
But it does give you an idea of some of the people
psychology, yeah.
that are in the state government. And again, of course, you know, Sununu can veto these things, right? So whether he'll approve of them or not is another question. But we're making progress here, and there's just amazing stuff that's happening on the ground in New Hampshire.
And we're not letting up.
No, we're not. It's just going to get better as more people move here.
If you want to bring more liberty into your community, there's something you should see. Intercoin, the movement you might want to join. If you like Bitcoin, break through. It's true. It's truly something new. If you'd like to see real prosperity, start your own currency, boost the economy. Intercoin, the movement you might want to join. If you like Bitcoin, its impact's hard to overstate, results you can appreciate. If you're tired of relying on the state, want to make your own community great, homelessness and hunger to eliminate, let the wealth accumulate. Don't wait for the growth rate to accelerate. Go to intercoin.org and get the coins for yourself.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Rebecca Foster. The U.S. Senate has agreed to a short-term deal that will increase America's debt ceiling. The bipartisan agreement avoids the government defaulting on its debts for the first time in history. Our Washington correspondent Nick Harper reports.
With the clock ticking and just 11 days remaining until the government defaulted, Democratic and Republican senators reached a consensus. It means the U.S. can continue borrowing into early December. The deal has been struck, but the senators still need to vote on the measure. That's expected to happen at some point over the next couple of days. It follows a vicious back and forth and in-party fighting for the Democrats. The Republicans also putting up roadblocks in response to the Biden administration's broader spending plans, including a proposed $3.5 trillion package.
England's red list for international travel, requiring hotel quarantine on arrival, is being cut down to just 7 countries. The UK government's also expanding the list of countries from which it will recognize vaccine certification for travel. Here's Ollie Barrett from London.
Panama, Colombia, Venezuela, Peru, Ecuador, Haiti and the Dominican Republic are now the only countries left on the red list. Several major tourist destinations come off, including Mexico and South Africa, so fully vaccinated Britons who return from the vast majority of countries in the world do not need to quarantine and face relaxed testing requirements too. The UK is recognising fully vaccinated status from 37 more countries and territories. Critics say the UK's traffic light system has been confusing and unfair at times. Ollie Barrett, London.
The European Union's executive has called for an investigation into the illegal pushback of migrants at the bloc's external border. There have been allegations of pushback operations in EU member states Greece, Croatia, and Romania. Lucy Hoff has more from Brussels.
Video footage published in German media appears to show officers pushing migrants back across the EU's borders in Romania, Croatia and Greece. Footage includes a Greek Coast Guard seemingly forcing a group of migrants back into the Aegean Sea. The European Commission has said it is deeply concerned by the reports of illegal pushbacks and has called for an investigation. Under international law, it is illegal to send potential asylum seekers back to where they could be in danger. Both Greece and Croatia say they are looking into the allegations, but Croatia says its police have acted in line with the law.
U.S. forces have been secretly operating in Taiwan for at least a year, according to reporting in the Wall Street Journal. A U.S. Special Operations Unit and a contingent of Marines have been training military forces there as concerns mount about potential aggression from China. From bureaus worldwide, this is FS.
Got Telegram? You can follow our channel there and discuss show prep with other listeners at telegram.freetalklive.com.
Yeah, it's Free Talk Live. You can join us here. The number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. You can bring up whatever you want to discuss. We're talking about the establishment here in New Hampshire. According to New Hampshire Public Radio, libertarians are the establishment now. The headline, Established New Hampshire Libertarian Activists Drive Coronavirus Protests. Some of the people behind the scenes behind some of these incredibly popular protests with hundreds, if not over 1,000 people coming to them are freedom-minded folks, are libertarian activists, some of whom moved here to New Hampshire as part of the Free State Project, and more people are coming every single month, if not every single week.
Every day.
Here to New Hampshire. We just did, Bonnie and I were just at a move-in, what they call move-in party recently. My federal handler allowed me to go. Which was nice. Yeah, cool. It was nice to do that. And we helped a younger couple, I would say maybe in their 40s or 30s or 40s.
Is that here in Keene?
No, it's actually down in a little town called Hinsdale.
Oh,
just
yeah,
a
Hinsdale.
little bit southwest of here. So help them. Actually, it was like their third move-in. They had 3 moving trucks, I guess.
Oh, I did the second one, yeah.
Yeah, so you would, there's different people at each one, which is cool.
I can't believe I missed that most recent
They got
one.
to meet different people, right? Like each time, which was cool. And so there's always people coming in here, and you might not have much help packing up your moving truck, but when you get to New Hampshire, as long as you let people know that you're coming and where you're, where you need the help, there's a good chance a dozen folks, if not more, are going to show up.
It's a really cool thing.
It's amazing. It's amazing. And every one of these move-in parties I've been to in the last, I don't know how many years I can remember at this point, we have that moving truck cleared out in less than an hour.
Yeah, real quick.
Less than an hour. I mean, depending on how many people you've got. But we probably didn't have more than 8. It wasn't the biggest moving party, but it was a good crew.
The most recent one I went to, there was probably 10, 12 Free Staters there. Like 5 of them were standing around. The other 5 of us were busting our butts in and out, carrying boxes in. And we still had that U-Haul unloaded in half an hour.
Less than an hour. No problem. Yeah, we got it done.
And it's funny, the people who rented the U-Haul, the new movers, actually an elderly couple who bought the house, they'd hired men to help move.
Oh, really?
They didn't realize that we did the whole moving party thing.
Oh, yeah.
And,
I helped them later on when they came back with more stuff.
Did you?
Yeah.
Did you? So these guys were like, man, we're on the clock, but these guys, these other people are just doing all the work. What's going on here,
This was in Keene, right?
Yeah.
I think I know what you're talking about.
And these things happen all across the state. as people keep coming in, moving into different parts of New Hampshire, there's totally different folks. It used to be in the early days you'd have to drive a ways because there weren't as many people here 15 years ago. Right. You might have to drive an hour to help somebody move in. But now, you don't have to go that far because there's already people likely wherever it is they're moving into.
Yeah, there's a lot of Free Staters here, and there are more and more people. It used to be we could keep track of when people were moving into the state. There's no way you can keep track of people moving into the state for the Free State Project anymore.
I had a friend that he's like, yeah, I'm moving to New Hampshire. And I was like, oh, yeah, we're from Colorado. And you want help? I was like, okay. So I drove out to Colorado, helped them move. I was like,
that's amazing.
Yeah, I'm like, I'll help anyone if you want help to get here. Let's go.
Well, I was at this, I was telling you guys the protest that happened with what some people say was over 1,000 people marching in the streets in Concord this past weekend. And it was cool because I saw there were two guys who were there, younger guys, that I recognized. Of course, I didn't remember their names because I hadn't seen them in a couple of years. But they had come up to Keene and visited us at the local Pho Noodle restaurant that we like to do hangouts, social meetings at, called Pho Keene. Great. And so they were there. And I asked them, hey, how you guys doing? Or did you make the move? And they said, yeah, we moved up. One of them moved up like a year ago. The other one moved up over the summer. And they're living in different areas. They're not living in Keene, but they're living in different parts of the state. And it's like, it's amazing. People coming up and then making the decision and changing their lives around to get on up here, which is amazing. Yeah, there was more than one person, too. There's another guy I met who had literally moved like a month ago. And he was super excited to be there. And he recognized me from being on the radio and everything. And so it's super cool.
Fortune favors the bold, so be bold, pick up your life, and move. It sounds drastic, but it's the best thing you'll ever do.
We'll get into the healthcare news in just a moment, but just a little bit more here from the NHPR story about New Hampshire establishment. So again, talking about how Free Staters and liberty activists are behind these protest groups that are working towards more freedom. Quote, in many ways, New Hampshire is fertile ground for these types of ideas. The Granite State has a history of government mistrust from our founding. The right of revolt is in the state constitution. And they're right. I'm surprised they mentioned that here in New Hampshire Public Radio story. But yeah, Article 10 of the New Hampshire Constitution is literally the right to revolution. So if government goes too far, you have the right to revolt against it, based in the New Hampshire Constitution. There's also vaccine hesitancy here that predates COVID and a predisposition towards medical privacy. New Hampshire was the last state to have a vaccine registry, for instance. We also have, I didn't know there was one. I thought people were saying there wasn't one in New Hampshire. The vaccine registry?
Well, they do it for like public schools still, right? I don't know.
Yeah, maybe it doesn't apply to COVID, but it does to other ones. I don't know.
Whenever the government says they're not starting a registry, they're starting a registry.
Yeah.
We also have a citizen legislature, and that's always been a permeable membrane for citizen activists. With that comes a history of grassroots conservative/libertarian activism around gun rights and limited government, reinvigorated in recent years by the Free State Project. You remember when they used to tell us, oh, you Free Staters will never get anywhere in New Hampshire. Now,
look where we are.
Now the state propaganda mouthpiece is admitting that the Free State Project, quote, reinvigorated libertarian activism, limited government activism here.
Took them a couple years to clear their throat. I'm sorry.
Recent polling from the University of New Hampshire suggests while vaccination rates for COVID are generally pretty high in New Hampshire, distrust of pharmaceutical companies has risen since June. But it's hard to know how much of that increase has to do with activism around COVID-19 vaccines, but those looking to limit government's reach on the pandemic will tell you they see a rising tide. And we're seeing it. We're seeing a rising tide of people who actually want to have freedom. They're picking up their lives, and they're moving here because there's no better time than now. I mean, 10 years ago, it would have been a better time, but if you didn't do it 10 years ago or 5 years ago, then now's the best time to start planning your move and just go, get here. Don't wait too long. I mean, I think it's a good idea to have some savings, like that doesn't hurt, but don't err on the long side of things.
No.
Yeah, the longer you wait, the harder it is to make that move.
Go. Pull the plug and do it.
Uproot yourself.
Do it now. Tear the Band-Aid off. Get on it. And another thing to throw out there, property values are super, super high right now. It's a good time to sell and just slide sideways. Get right into another place in a different spot.
Yeah.
So the number here is 603-283-6160. And some of the reasons why people want to move is it's getting difficult to find work in certain industries, like in the medical establishment. Joey, you've got a story coming out of the Louisiana healthcare system. What's going on down there?
Well, they're going to charge, or they are charging employees with unvaccinated partners. So the largest healthcare system in Louisiana will charge its employees $200 a month if a spouse or domestic partner covered under its health plan is not vaccinated against the COVIDs.
Even if you are vaccinated, you as the healthcare employee,
right?
That's not good enough. Now your family member has to be vaccinated or you'll be punished.
You cannot cow to these people. You cannot give them an inch. They will take a mile. And if they're going to require spouses to be that, okay, what? So what next?
How far is too far?
Yeah, well, 1 inch is too far, but how long are they going to take it? What's the next move? Like, how far are they going to let? How far are you going to let them push you?
Yeah, why only spouses? Why not children too?
Yeah, children. Why not the babysitter? How about the next door neighbor?
But they said this is going to take effect in 2022.
That's going to be here before you know it.
Right. But here's some false information that this article is posting. I just realized. It says, the new rule, which will take effect in 2022, comes as a vast majority of coronavirus patients who end up hospitalized are unvaccinated. Huh, really? That's not actually true. Actually,
that's not what the data is suggesting.
Well, no, actually, no. The data is suggesting just the opposite. That the unvaccinated are not the ones going to the hospital. It's the vaccinated. This is a fact check that's been is blowing out of proportion. I should try to find this for the next segment.
We'll continue here. More on the story, and your thoughts are certainly welcome. Whether you work in the healthcare industry, you want to tell us what's going on where you are. You're welcome to join us here. The number is 603-283-6160. And if you just recently got off the fence and decided to make the move to New Hampshire, what was it that pushed you? You can tell us that as well. It's Free Talk Live. On Free Talk Live, we're bringing people to the ideas of liberty every day. From wrestling superstars like Glenn Jacobs.
You guys really are having an impact, I believe. Like I said, a lot of where I am now is due to listening to Free Talk Live. You changed my mind on some very important issues years ago.
To random people tuning in on the radio.
I was kind of stuck in the left-right paradigm. I heard your show by chance on a Saturday night. From there, I went on, joined the Free State Project, and become an amplifier. So, I mean, that's really the reason why I amp is because I know that if it wasn't for you guys being on as many stations as you are, I never would have found the ideas of liberty.
Your amp will directly change more lives by getting Free Talk Live in front of people looking for talk radio online and on the air. When you amp Free Talk Live, you get perks like access to the AMP-only Facebook group and AMP podcast. Visit amp.freetalklive.com.
I'm a little obsessed with My Magic Mud. Several years ago, I met Jessica Armand, the founder and CEO of My Magic Mud, and I didn't even know my teeth were coffee stained. A week's worth of use convinced me, and now I use it every 3 or 4 days. It's clinically proven to whiten teeth, and I think it cleans better, too. My Magic Mud's available at most local health food stores, Sprouts, Natural Grocers, CVS, Walmart's Natural Beauty Aisle, but I can get it for you for 20% off with coupon code FTL20 at mymagicmud.com. FTL20 mymagicmud.com.
There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com. The Free State Project has reached its goal of 20,000 liberty lovers who've pledged to move to New Hampshire and get active to achieve liberty in our lifetime. Perhaps you're trying to figure out what part of New Hampshire should be your destination. If so, consider Keene. You'll find more than 150 reasons to move to Keene at move.freekeene.com. Keene is famous for its historic, publicity-generating activism, as well as being the liberty media capital of the world. It's home to freekeene.com, New Hampshire's destination for liberty activism, news, and opinion. For years, we've been compiling over 150 reasons to move to Keene at move.freekeene.com, where you'll learn about some of what's happening here and what makes Keene a great place to live. If you love liberty, you'll probably enjoy anywhere you end up in the Shire. But do your due diligence first. Please visit move.freekeen.com for the full list of over 150 reasons to move to Keene. That's move.freekeen.com. What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191.
There are basically two types of advertising, direct response and branding. Radio's great for direct response with its low cost to listener ratio, but audio can't be beat for branding, which is a longer-term endeavor. You want to be the first thing that someone thinks of when they think about your product or service. If you have a local business that you want kept top of mind in your community, call the station. If you need national reach, Free Talk Live's got around 200 radio stations, millions of monthly listening sessions, can suit all budgets, and if we don't think we're right for you, we'll tell you. Email me, mark@freetalklive.com.
Do you appreciate what we do? Help us advertise, market, and promote for just $5 a month at amp.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live. Open phones as always. If you want to join us here, the number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. By the way, we've told you about Intercoin, which can help any business and organization launch their own currency or raise money using their own token. Now, intercoin.org has launched worldwide, so is there a token that you want to launch or an app that you want to build for your community? You can go to intercoin.org, enter your email, and the team will get in touch and learn about your needs. And while you're there, if you want, get some Intercoin investor tokens for yourself. Head over to intercoin.org. It's Ian, Matt, and Joa in the studio tonight. Joa, you're telling us a disturbing story, and it's, shouldn't really be surprising at this point because these statist, authoritarian, medical, people, they just keep pushing as far as they can get away with. And now they're saying if you work in the medical establishment at this, and it doesn't say what particular hospital or company, or if it's,
I think it's the whole Louisiana
all of the
healthcare
state
system,
that says if you are working in this healthcare system and your spouse has not been vaccinated, they are going to punish you by docking your pay $200 a month.
Yeah, that's crazy, and it's just like, how are they really going to find out anything of the medical? I don't think it's any of the business about their medical history, anyways. But I guess if you work at the hospital, you probably have some requirements and qualifiers and all that stuff. Well, it's just
it's none of their business who I live with.
Devil's advocate, you got to get the vaccine to work there, right? But now they're reached into your home,
so
they're looking at who you live with. That's crazy. They're going to look into their medical history. It's none of the business.
It's already gone too far, and now they're pushing it even further.
Yes. And why it mattered. I was just talking about it, and it's like, I think it's misinformation and about how it's they're blaming the unvaccinated for the increase at hospitals. But the truth is like if you look at Israel's study, I saw this from Ben Swan, is that it relatively has not changed.
Mm-hmm.
So if you've been unvaccinated, supposedly you should be at the hospital before a vaccinated person, right? But no, the statistics haven't changed. So there's no difference in that. So how do I put that? How do I clarify that better? So if you've been vaccinated, the change hasn't happened. You still go to the hospital. It's
in some places vaccination. It just depends on where, but in some places most people in the hospital are vaccinated.
Right.
So it doesn't seem to make a real difference. Although some people would say, I think Nikki had this story last night. It was the Italian doctor that was, I guess in Italy, I guess doctors are in ambulances. So he's seeing people all the time who are having negative reactions to or at least what he believes are negative reactions to the vaccine.
They're seeing them in hospitals all the time. The cardiac units are stuffed full of people having weird embolisms and things like that.
And what he was saying was that he believes that the vaccine is causing people that had prior conditions that had sort of stabilized to have that condition come back. So not necessarily blood clots, but it could be other things that had been wrong with them previously that the vaccine is basically triggering them to reemerge, essentially. And so therefore it doesn't look per se, because correlation isn't causation.
Right.
They won't say, oh, well, it's the vaccine that, did this.
That's funny. That's Italy, too. So they're getting entirely different vaccines from other companies.
Well, they're still the mRNA.
That's what you'd think. Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting it's interesting that every single vaccine manufacturer on the planet used the same exact technology at the same exact time. That's
creepy.
Sus.
Yeah.
Super suspicious.
What else do we need to know,
So
Joe?
they're saying that the big picture is that the Ochsner Health, that's I guess the hospital, the chain, which employs nearly 32,000 employees and over 4,500 physicians, calls the policy the spousal COVID vaccine fee. According to a letter Ochsner leaders sent to employees, NOLA, I guess it's the health
And this is
organization.
just punitive. Because as you pointed out, it doesn't matter whether you're vaccinated or not. You can still come down with COVID. So it's not like vaccinated employees are going to cost them more or less.
Well, I have a question. If the insurance companies, what I'm understanding is the insurance companies are basically requiring it's the hospitals doing it on the behalf of the insurance companies.
I feel like this might be something federally where they're paying it forward because it actually may cost them to hire employees to do this all the tracking. So it's like they almost are trying to, I'm sure they really crunch numbers already in hospitals. So now that they have to add more employees for some government rules and laws, that this is how they're countering it and covering those balances.
Well, what I'm wondering is, we know that you're not allowed to sue the vaccine manufacturers if it all goes sideways on you and kills you or maims you forever or whatever.
Right.
My question now is, since the insurance companies are basically wanting the spouses to be also vaccinated, are the insurance companies going to pick up any tabs for medical illnesses that arise from these vaccines? Are they going to pay for those? Are they going to pay for those treatments?
Well, they're medical experts, right? In this healthcare industry.
I work in insurance, and I know that we do everything based on pure factual data as far as our risk goes.
As if they haven't taken enough from people, they have to do things like this, and you do it to like really important people, like these people that are trying to save lives, and you're destroying them as they're trying to save lives.
Yeah.
Like come on. But Ochsner will add a health insurance surcharge of $100 per pay period, which is
every other week.
Yeah, every other week. So it's $2,400 a year. That's a lot of money. Imagine how much you could cure your own self by spending $2,400 a year on health, and maybe outside the realm of pharmaceutical industries. But CEO Warner Thompson said the company spent more than $9 million on COVID-19 care for those covered under its health plans. Thomas said the surcharge will keep health premiums low for employees. Yeah, right. Yeah, because I'm sure like if you go in there and you're sick, oh, have you been vaccinated? No. Oh, we got to charge you more now. So this is like something like saying, oh, now you're part of the club. We're not going to charge you so much. Like,
it's
come on.
two-tier. It's this whole different mentality of you're in the in crowd and you're not, and it's a two-tier society now, and you're either with the vaccinated crowd or you're not, and you get treated like dirt if you're not. You don't have as many job opportunities. You have to pay extra fees in order to keep employed, basically.
Yeah, second class citizens.
Totally second-class citizen stuff. Yeah. And it gets even worse. Is there more to the story that you want to share?
Yeah, COVID-19 cases have been falling across the U.S. for weeks, and the deaths are finally on the decline too. So why does it matter now? The Delta wave may have truly been behind us, and though unvaccinated people in heavily unvaccinated areas will always remain at risk.
Why does any of this matter? Because it's only a disease that kills, 0.02%, according to the inflated government numbers? Why does any of this matter? Why does anybody get freaked out about this?
It's about control. We all know
That's
this.
all that it's about.
It's a control. And getting the virus under control would allow the country as a whole to breathe a little easier.
Which they
fall.
never will. Look at Australia. Look at New Zealand.
They don't want to get it under control.
They can't.
They don't want to get it under
That's
control.
just like gaslighting to us, though. It's like, you don't do it, we're not going to have control.
No amount of control has worked.
Maybe we shouldn't give them control anymore. So don't get the vax. Let them go out of control, and so that way they don't have control.
Which is
problem
really
solved.
It's really the best.
That's the only solution, Joe, is for people to simply refuse to obey. But because they have so much, or at least it appears as though they have so much to hold over their heads, people will crumble. And they will do what they're told.
What if it sterilized you and you wanted to have babies someday? Would you still be so cowing and cowardly and willing to take this shot then, even if it was going to screw with your reproductive abilities?
They put so many people in this country in a position of having to live paycheck to paycheck. And it's just been kind of the American way of, oh, well, you get a raise? Great, now you can spend more. You know,
I think Americans are also, on average, kind of personally responsible for themselves, putting themselves
They put
there
themselves in this position.
Yeah, there's a lot of childlike people out there who don't know how to do anything other than live paycheck. They gobble up every dime they make. You know,
and if you're living paycheck to paycheck and you've had kids on top of that, I can understand why you would feel locked right where you are, to feel as though you can't say no, that you can't stand up and can't find work somewhere else. Because look, let me tell you, if you want to find work somewhere else, just go downtown, and knock on a door, because every single business in downtown Keene, every single business everywhere in this area is hiring.
Yep.
So New Hampshire has the lowest unemployment rate of all states all the time anyway, and now one of them, and now all states are suffering from not having enough employees to go around. Keene, like New Hampshire.
What's amazing though about New Hampshire is that businesses are still building. Like new businesses are coming in, building new buildings.
How can they afford it? I mean, how can they take the risk?
Because they know that this is the future and that there's no restrictions. We're free.
Well, there's still restrictions.
They're inspired by the freedom.
We're freer, but we're not. I wouldn't say we're free.
We're getting there.
Now things are getting way worse for some of these people. I mean, you think getting taxed by $200, every month is bad? How about just being denied a kidney transplant? Because that's the next story. That's coming up. It's Free Talk Live. Hour 3 is on the way.
Breaking weather news. Belize is sunny and around 82 degrees every day this week.
What's the forecast for your life? If current politics and economic prospects are cramping your freedom, escape to the tropics. ECI Development has affordable second homes for you to own or rent in Belize and other tropical countries. Places with stable governments and growing economies. Secure your freedom now. To find out more, send an email to ftl@ecidevelopment.com.
When Monster Hunter International discovers one of Isaac Newton's wardstones being auctioned off, they decide to steal it and use it to destroy the Chaos God once and for all. But a mysterious thief upends their plan, and it soon becomes a race against time as something much older and infinitely more evil awakens in the jungles of South America. Monster Hunter Bloodlines by New York Times best-selling author Larry Correia and Baen Books. Visit monsterhunternation.com for more.
Looking for a great real estate investment? Consider New Hampshire, which is ground zero for the Liberty Movement. Your first call should be to Mark Worden from Porcupine Real Estate. He's more than just a real estate agent. He's your New Hampshire concierge. Where are the best places to live? Do you want farm, city, the burbs, or forest? Do you want a duplex or multifamily building so that renters pay your mortgage? There are homes in all price ranges in New Hampshire, and Mark can help with financing too. Invest in liberty and property. Mark Worden can help.
PorcupineRealEstate.com.
Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. Chat.lrn.fm.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 3 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Rebecca Foster. The U.S. Senate has agreed to a short-term deal that will increase America's debt ceiling. The bipartisan agreement avoids the government defaulting on its debts for the first time in history. Our Washington correspondent Nick Harper reports.
With the clock ticking and just 11 days remaining until the government defaulted, Democratic and Republican senators reached a consensus. It means the US can continue borrowing into early December. The deal has been struck, but the senators still need to vote on the measure. That's expected to happen at some point over the next couple of days. It follows a vicious back and forth and in-party fighting for the Democrats. The Republicans also putting up roadblocks in response to the Biden administration's broader spending plans, including a proposed $3.5 trillion package.
England's red list for international travel, requiring hotel quarantine on arrival, is being cut down to just 7 countries. The UK government's also expanding the list of countries from which it will recognize vaccine certification for travel. Here's Ollie Barrett from London.
Panama, Colombia, Venezuela, Peru, Ecuador, Haiti, and the Dominican Republic are now the only countries the nation